Courtney Love?
Courtney Love just did an interview with The Standard in the UK where she just decided to take shots at everyone. Literally everyone was in her crosshairs, including Taylor Swift, which I don't know if anyone warned her, but obviously Taylor Swift has some of the most unhinged fans on the planet. So they're currently very angry at her. But here's her full quote. It literally wasn't even that long. Here's what she said. Taylor Swift is not important. She might be a safe space for girls, and she's probably the Madonna of now, but she's not interesting as an artist.
Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I do.
So what I think actually what it is, there's an interesting societal response to how uninteresting her art actually is, which by default makes her interesting.
Yeah, I think just the fact that Taylor Swift is such a, I guess, I don't know, what is it? Like a cultural cornerstone? Like that is an interesting conversation to have. But Taylor Swift as a person and as an artist, I actually don't find her interesting, or I don't find her art interesting. And that's valid to say, like that's a valid opinion, but everyone is saying that Courtney Love is a fake feminist because she criticized Taylor Swift. And as usual, feminism for Taylor Swift is nobody is allowed to say anything bad about me or else they're a misogynist. Like it's just the same thing repeating over and over.
I was thinking about it. So I was thinking about like like nowadays, like I actually do have to think about like the idea of like having kids. Like what if you have a daughter? And when I think about like your choices for your kids' influences when it comes to pop culture, I suppose there would be worse. Like if you have a daughter and she comes home and she's a fan of Taylor Swift, I suppose that's better than coming home and she's a fan of like, I don't know, Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah, like I legitimately, if I had to choose, probably Taylor Swift.
It's like I was hoping
one of the least offensive of the bunch.
I was hoping she'd be a Lana fan, but I guess I'll settle for Taylor Swift.
It might be a red flag if your daughter is a Lana fan, though.
Why?
Even though Lana is technically superior, you know, she might be more of a normie and have a better chance at fitting in socially if she's a Swiftie.
That's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking like in an age where you have to worry about all of these weird outside influences turning your kids against you, and it's not good for their upbringing. There are worse influences than a woman who writes pop songs about heartbreak. I do, however, wish we could find a way to like do so where we can also give her some influences from other genres, you know, get your kids some influences from other genres. Because what I found is like a lot of kids are either really, really into the genres their parents listen to, or they go the complete opposite way if they feel like it's pushed on them.
Kids don't care about genres now. They literally just listen to TikTok sounds. That's not a thing.
That's
not a thing. But the funniest thing now is that Gen Z Swifties are literally asking, who is Courtney Love? Literally, who is this? They've never heard of Courtney Love. I think Courtney Love is in this stage of life where she's like, everyone thinks I murdered my husband. I'm almost 60 years old. I have nothing left to lose. I'm just going to talk shit about literally everyone. I
mean, she's not even that old, so I'm more impressed. It's more impressive that she's not really that old.
And she's not. In fact, she looks good for her age, as you said. But she just sounds like she gives zero Fs.
Like when you said, I thought you said she was almost 70, and I was like, holy crap.
I said that because she was trash talking Madonna.
Okay.
But she definitely looks better than Madonna, right? So here's what she said. People used to say that I was so difficult. They said I was disagreeable. Yes, I'm completely disagreeable, and I'm never going to apologize for that. I always wanted to be known as a bitch. Being liked was never my thing. Kurt wanted to be liked, but not me. He was able to hide behind me, but then I got hate. Then Kurt died, and the hatred towards me reached a completely new level. I didn't plan for that. I'm all for taking my wiener out on stage like Jim Morrison. If I had a wiener and I was drunk enough, I would have totally taken it out. Just like Jim. I had a bitch capacity, and I was cool with not being liked. I saw Bob Dylan in Don't Look Back, and he didn't want to be liked, and I thought, yeah, I want to be like that. And it's working out for her, clearly. Yeah. Because everyone is really mad at her on Stan Twitter.
And what it is that's the actual personality type that so many of them believe they have. So many. Oh yeah,
all the girl bosses think that they're just like Courtney Love, but no, Courtney Love is one of a kind.
Courtney Love also called out Weinstein, right, back in the day.
She's called out a ton of people over the years. But I mean, I think that it's interesting how she's getting called a fake feminist when in this entire interview, she's just nonstop going on about how she wants women to be at the forefront of the music industry and she wants every industry to stop being a boys' club. And not saying I agree with her perception of that, but she clearly is like a staunch feminist who just doesn't think she needs to celebrate every individual woman.
It goes to something we were talking about off camera about something else entirely, which is like when you're authentic and you have thoughts of your own, it won't sound like you're parroting back the topics that you've been told to talk about. So she's not spewing her feminism in buzzwords. Right. She's doing it through her own individual lens, which is her own personality. Which
I respect more than just, Twitter hashtags and buzzwords and taglines like Taylor Swift does.
The lack of buzzwords is what tells you it's authentic.
We got a $20 from Joe Watlin. He said Swift is a pop star. She isn't a punk rocker and she isn't a gangster rapper and she isn't a jazz musician and definitely not the Beatles. Just another pop star. Well, to be fair, a lot of people said just another pop star about plenty of people who are like widely revered now. Right.
Yeah. And I think that she's had a strong enough cultural influence that calling her just another pop star is probably underselling it.
She's going to be remembered.
She'll be remembered. It is funny though, because for her, the genre that she moved into, to me, it feels like she's the last vestige of life before Hollywood went nuts. Justin Bieber and her are the last little pieces of that era.
Yeah. That's a good.
As far as genres, but she wasn't just. So Courtney Love wasn't just talking about Taylor Swift though. She was also talking about Beyonce. And
yes, here's her comment about Beyonce as well. She said, "It's great that there are so many successful women in the music industry, but lots of them are becoming a cliche. Now, every successful woman is cloned, so there is just too much music. They're all the same. If you play something on Spotify, you get bombarded with a lot of stuff that's exactly the same. I like the idea of Beyonce doing a country record because it's about Black women going into spaces where previously only white women have been allowed. Not that I like it that much. As a concept, I love it. I just don't like her music." So she's dissing Taylor Swift, which is blasphemy. Yeah. She's dissing Beyonce's country album, also blasphemy. Yeah. And she just kind of doesn't care what anyone thinks of it, which is respectable on some level.
And she talks about how things were different back in the day, and it was just different. What's funny?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Michael J. Fox gave like an interview recently where he talked about how it was harder to be famous in the '80s. He's like, you actually had to be talented, and I thought that was funny because Michael J. Fox is kind of a sacred cow in Hollywood because of his diagnosis, his MS or whatever. Is it MS that he has?
I'm not sure.
But he, being he's very, very famous for his activism in those circles after having to retire from acting. Now he's coming back. He's saying you had to actually be talented in the '80s. That's kind of a hot take from somebody who's pretty inoffensive.
Now you have to be an industry plant.
Correct.
To make it at this point, like Olivia Rodrigo.
Parkinson's.
Started on Disney.
Thank you. Parkinson's. I knew I was going to get that one wrong.
So here were Courtney Love's comments on Lana Del Rey as well. She also took shots at her. She said, "I haven't liked Lana since she covered a John Denver song, and I think that she should really take 7 years off." She could have said like a year, 2.
It's a very arbitrary number.
7 is like, I just want you to go away.
Just go away.
Up until her cover of Take Me Home Country Roads, I thought she was great. When I was recording my new album, I had to stop listening to her as she was influencing me too much. It's such a veiled compliment. It almost sounds like an insult. You're not sure whether you should be flattered or not. And then she also made comments about Madonna as well, saying, "I don't like her and she doesn't like me. I loved Desperately Seeking Susan, but for the city of New York as much as her." So she just didn't say anything positive about almost anyone.
So I wonder how much of this is just like the anniversary of Kurt's death came up, so she's being interviewed because it was around the time that. Well, it was just it was like last week or something, right? It was like last week or the week before. And I wonder if a lot of it is just we're going to talk to people of interest at that time who were in his life because he's a person of interest because the however many year anniversary was coming up of when he died.
Yeah. She also talked shit about Olivia Rodrigo a few years ago.
I like the idea that she didn't know who any of these people were, and they just gave her a list.
They literally were listing them up. Okay, Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
And then she just did a hot take for every person. But she talked shit about Olivia Rodrigo, saying that she copied her album art from her 1994 Hole album. But in reality, it's just a picture of you crying mascara with flowers as a prom queen, and that's Carrie. And like, you just copied Carrie, and then Olivia Rodrigo copied you. It wasn't original in the first place, but like, go off, queen.
And I suppose, like, if there was two fan bases you don't really want to get on the bad side of, it's Beyonce fans and Taylor Swift fans.
Who's crazier?
Managing to do that in one sitting is impressive.
Who's crazier, Swifties or the Beehive at this point?
I would imagine. I feel like I hear more stories about Beyonce fans, but I could be wrong.
They might be crazier, but it's only because they're like whittled down to just the craziest ones now. The Swifties are just like NPCs who hopped on the next bandwagon.
They got put in their place because the Beyonce movie didn't do as well as the Taylor Swift movie.
Actually, yes. Like, that was embarrassing for her.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.